self-care warriors, welcome back to Self-Care Haven. Today we're talking about complex PTSD and complex trauma, and I really wanted to focus today on reparenting the inner child. I also wanted to let you guys know that I actually just wrote a piece for The Meadows, which is a premier drug addiction and trauma treatment center, and they are amazing. I'm so honored to have been able to write that blog, and it's about the complex trauma survivor and how these types of survivors have had such a prolonged period of trauma and abuse, and they've suffered so many different types of trauma simultaneously, and they have faced a lifetime's worth of bullying, right? So I'll leave a link to that article below. But really what I wanted to do in this video was to share some reparenting affirmations with you from Pete Walker, because this book is a lifesaver for complex trauma survivors, right? It's called Complex PTSD: From Surviving to Thriving. And Pete Walker is a trauma therapist who specializes in complex trauma and complex PTSD. And he is just so on point. He has come from a background of complex trauma himself, which is why I think he has not only clinical experience in treating trauma survivors, but also in helping and healing himself. So it comes from both the survivor and practitioner perspective, which I love, because I think those perspectives are tend to be the most nuanced, the most rich, the most insightful, right? Because it's not just one or the other. It's not just coming from a clinical background. It's also coming from a personal perspective. And I love that. I think those perspectives are actually the most helpful in this field of writing, especially with a topic that I feel is underrepresented, is under-researched, and it definitely needs more perspectives moving forward, right? Especially when we're talking about narcissistic abuse, because that can start in early childhood, right? If you grow up with narcissistic parents and then you basically have this trauma repetition cycle, which causes you to re-engage with narcissistic partners in adulthood, what do you have? You have complex trauma. You might even have complex PTSD, and that includes disruptions in interpersonal relationships, interpersonal effectiveness, a pervasive sense of unworthiness, toxic shame, a burgeoning inner critic. There are just so many things that are related to complex trauma that we might not even realize are debilitating and damaging, right, to us in a long term. And some of us may not even know that these are symptoms of that complex trauma. For example, emotional flashbacks, those are not visual flashbacks, but those are emotional flashbacks that basically trigger us to regress right back into those old childhood wounds. And what happens is that then the trauma bond from early childhood is cemented over and over and over again with dangerous partners in adulthood, and it all stems from that childhood trauma, that first wounding, right? And it continues to reinforce that wounding and makes us feel even more unworthy, adds on to that heightened inner critic, adds on to hypervigilance, adds on to disruptions in interpersonal effectiveness and interpersonal behavior and communication, all sorts of things related to our behavior, and it becomes almost like a sort of addiction. If we are addicted to the trauma of the past in this sense, and I don't mean that it's a conscious choice, I just mean that if we have been flooded with these negative messages in early childhood, what happens is that we often seek out things that reaffirm them, right? And the aggressor, the abuser, is always going to be 100% at fault for that, for abusing us in the first place, and for even seeking out people who are already vulnerable, because I think that's truly sick. But I do think that our early childhood programming and our childhood wounding definitely plays a role in that. Not that we asked to be abused, not that we are at fault for that, but it does re-traumatize us, and it does have an impact on our healing journey. So I wanted to share with you some reparenting affirmations that Pete Walker has provided for us in this book. And I'm really excited because I think that self-mothering is so important, and self-soothing and addressing our inner childhood wounds is incredibly important in the healing journey and when it comes to the trauma repetition cycle. So I'm excited for you to hear these affirmations. And to start off, I'll actually read the introduction where he talks about inner child work, so you know what he's talking about, and so you can conceptualize it and contextualize it a little bit more. Let us return to the concept of self-mothering. As mother to ourselves, we commit to increasing our self-compassion and unconditional positive regard. Self-mothering is a resolute refusal to indulge in self-hatred and self-abandonment. It proceeds from the realization that self-punishment is counterproductive. It is enhanced by the understanding that patience and self-encouragement are more effective than self-judgment and self-rejection in achieving recovery. You can enhance your self-mothering skills by imaginatively creating a safe place in your heart where your inner child and your present time self are always welcome. Consistent tenderness towards yourself welcomes the child into the adult body you now inhabit and shows him or her that it is a nurturing place protected by a warm and powerful adult. Self-mothering can be enhanced by thought correcting the critic's negative messages. This is the inner critic that he talks about. With healing words that the child in all likelihood never heard from his or her parents. A client of mine once shared this pearl of wisdom with me. Thoughts, just mere thoughts, are as powerful as electric batteries, as good for you as sunlight, or as bad for you as poison. Here then are some useful messages for nurturing the growth of your self-compassion and self-esteem. I recommend that you imagine speaking them to your inner child, especially when you are suffering with a flashback, whether emotional or visual, of course. Reparenting Affirmations by Pete Walker. I'm so glad you were born. You are a good person. I love who you are, and I'm doing my best to always be on your side. Again, this is about becoming your own best advocate, which we talked about in previous videos. You can come to me whenever you're feeling hurt or bad. You do not have to be perfect to get my love and protection. All of your feelings are okay with me. I'm always glad to see you. It is okay for you to be angry, and I won't let you hurt yourself or hurt others when you are. You can make mistakes. They are your teachers. You can know what you need and ask for help. You can have your own preferences and tastes. You are a delight in my eyes. You can choose your own values. You can pick your own friends, and you don't have to like everyone. You can sometimes feel confused and ambivalent and not know all the answers. I'm very proud of you. So I think these affirmations are extremely helpful, especially for childhood survivors of narcissistic abuse who later repeat that pattern in adulthood. Not only does it affirm the inner child's worth and value, it tells the child exactly what they missed hearing, what they needed to hear when they were children. About the fact that they don't have to be micromanaged, controlled, or policed by anyone, that they are not a trophy to show off, that their ability to take pride in themselves is a valuable trait, and the fact that they can be self-sufficient and make their own decisions in life without having to rely on the controlling narcissistic parent who often micromanages and polices the feelings and the actions and the beliefs and the goals and the dreams and the aspirations of the child. So I welcome you to write a comment in the comment section below and share with me your reparenting affirmation or affirmations, set of affirmations if you'd like. Things that you wish that you had heard as a childhood abuse survivor, or even as an adult survivor of abuse. What would you like to hear from that loving inner child? And what would you have liked to hear when you were growing up that you didn't get to? And I think that this will be such a validating exercise and such a healing exercise for not only you, but for other survivors who will be able to benefit from your wisdom, your insights, and your affirmations. So I look forward to hearing your reparenting affirmations and self-soothing affirmations, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Until next time, take care.